I saw her in the kitchen, calm and peaceful. The suitcase was already unpacked, clothes neatly folded, and only her smile seemed out of place, not matching the usual fatigue after a journey. I stood in the doorway watching Emily take out a bright dress from the suitcase, the one I gave her before the trip. A tiny grain of sand remained on the hem, a strange detail like a forgotten memory. She noticed my gaze and quickly brushed it onto the floor. "How did it go?" I asked, trying to hide the tension in my voice. "Great," she replied shortly, not taking her eyes off the clothes. "It was so nice to just be alone, you know? Didn't take any photos?" I asked. "Wanted to take a break from social media," she answered, stretching and smiling at me over her shoulder. That smile, I didn't recognize it. It felt different, as if the emotions from the trip were deeper than just a simple getaway. Later that evening, when Emily went to take a shower, I picked up her phone. The gallery was empty. Even the old photos all gone. Why? What was she trying to forget? I put the phone back as I heard the water stop, but a feeling had already settled inside me, like a shadow had passed between us. The next morning, I noticed Emily carefully ironing that same bright dress. She never used to pay so much attention to the creases. Her movements were slow, as if she was trying to smooth out not just the fabric but something from her memory as well. When she went to the store, I inspected the suitcase. Everything was neatly arranged, just as before, but in the corner I noticed a packet of coffee, not the kind she usually bought. She had never drunk the kind before. Why was it there? I sat on the bed, staring at the suitcase. Little things were forming a mosaic, but the picture didn't add up. She looked calm, but something had changed. Maybe I was losing my mind? Maybe I was just being jealous for no reason? But then why did I feel so cold inside just thinking about her trip? When she came back, I didn't ask about the coffee. I just sat on the same bed. That night, I couldn't sleep for a long time. Thoughts swirled in my head like someone had mixed up the puzzle pieces of my life. I held her as she slept, but her body felt foreign, as if the distance between us had suddenly become insurmountable. I didn't know what to look for. But one thing was clear, my world had started to change shape and I could no longer pretend not to notice. The next day, I noticed something else. Her favorite scent had changed. It was sharper, more intense, as if she was trying to hide something under this new cloud of fragrance. The morning started with the usual ritual, coffee and silence. Emily sat across from me, flipping through a magazine, and I suddenly felt that something had changed. She looked relaxed, as if everything bad had stayed somewhere far away on the coast. I moved my cup closer, and the new smell hit me again, the same perfume but too strong, unusual, as if she had overdone it. "New perfume?" I asked, pretending to be just curious. "No, the same one." Her voice was light, serene. But I knew her habits. Emily always put on just a hint, barely noticeable, like a trail in the air. Now it was dense, persistent. I looked at her again. She noticed my gaze and, without raising her eyes from the magazine, adjusted her hair. A heavy feeling filled my chest. I suddenly realized that I couldn't recall her mentioning anything specific about what she had seen or done during her trip. Just vague phrases, relaxed, just walked around, the sea was beautiful. My mind bounced between jealousy and logic. Maybe I was just overthinking it? Maybe she really was tired of constant photos and social media? But something inside me wouldn't let go. This new scent, this newfound calmness. It felt like the trip had changed her into someone else. In the evening, I decided to ask a simple question about the place where she stayed. But her answer took the ground from under my feet. She named a different hotel. Emily came home later than usual, said she was delayed at work. Her mood was upbeat, eyes sparkling, and I realized I couldn't remember her like this, light as a feather. During dinner, I decided to test my suspicions. I slipped the question casually. "Remind me, what was the name of the hotel where you stayed? I wanted to check its reviews." She smiled. "Ocean Breeze. A really nice place, right on the shore." My hands went cold. I remembered clearly, before the trip she had talked about a different hotel, Sea Cliff. We had chosen it together. I froze, staring at her face, trying to figure out whether she was joking. "Wasn't it Sea Cliff?" I clarified. She froze for a moment, as if she didn't understand the question. Then she laughed. "Oh, right? We did pick that one first. But then I changed the booking, this one was cheaper." I gripped the fork harder than I intended. Why hadn't she told me about this earlier? I would have noticed the change in the reservation. But her ease confused me and I didn't push further. Later, when she was asleep, I checked her email. There was no confirmation email, neither for the old booking nor the new one. I started feeling paranoid, but one thing wouldn't leave my mind, this change in her story. I tried to convince myself that maybe she really did change the hotel at the last minute and just forgot to mention it. But another version was starting to take shape in my head. She was hiding something. I lay down on the bed, but sleep wouldn't come. Emily was breathing softly beside me as if she had nothing to worry about. And I kept wondering how many more cracks in her story I was simply not noticing. I decided to find out the truth. At Emily's work, I accidentally overheard that her colleague, Mark, had also taken a vacation last week. Coincidence? Or not? The next day, I saw Emily off to work. She kissed me on the cheek, smiled, everything seemed normal. But her lightness no longer felt natural. She seemed to glow from within, and that joy never left her for a second. After she left, I made a decision: go to her office. Inside, I was trembling with a mixture of fear and determination. I parked and pretended to look for something in the car. A minute later, her colleague Mark walked by. Athletic, confident, heading toward the door. They had always been friendly, but I felt like he had been oddly avoiding me since the trip. I decided to ask directly. "Hey Mark, long time no see. How's it going?" I tried to sound casual, though everything inside me was tense. "Hey, all good." He hesitated for a moment, giving me a wary look. "You were on vacation last week too, right?" I asked as if casually. He froze, his smile fading slightly. "Yeah. Just needed a break." He nodded quickly and took a step back. I watched him leave, and something inside me broke. I remembered how Emily mentioned that Mark had unexpectedly taken time off before her trip. Back then it seemed trivial, but now a worrying detail. Back at home, I opened my laptop and decided to check again. I went through Mark's social media, nothing new, just old photos. But in one post, I accidentally noticed a shadow on the sand, a woman's figure with a flowing scarf. It looked strikingly similar to Emily's scarf, the one I gave her. My chest tightened with pain and jealousy. Mark and Emily, were they on the same beach? I kept looking at the photo, trying to find proof. When Emily came back that evening, I stayed silent. She was talking about something, laughing, but I wasn't listening. I already knew that the calmness of these days was just an illusion. I was ready to find out the truth. I couldn't take the silence anymore. During dinner, I asked her directly. "Did you see Mark on your trip?" Emily came home with that same smile, smelling of the new perfume. I had made her favorite dinner, pasta with tomato sauce. She sat down, picked up her fork, but didn't start eating. "How was your day?" she asked, looking at me with bright eyes. "Fine," I tried not to reveal my tension. "Yours too, right?" She nodded, took a sip of water, and suddenly noticed how focused I was on stirring the sauce. "Is something wrong?" Her voice was soft, almost tender. "No. Just wanted to ask." I paused. "You didn't run into anyone familiar during your vacation, did you?" She froze for a fraction of a second, then lowered her eyes to her plate. "No, of course not," she replied, twirling the fork in her hands. The lie cut through me like a knife. I saw her hesitation, as if she had prepared an answer but stumbled at the last moment. "What about Mark?" I didn't drop the topic. Emily frowned as if the question surprised her. "No, what are you talking about?" She even laughed, but it was dry. "Why would you think that?" I wanted to mention the photo, the one with the shadow on the sand with her scarf, but something held me back. Maybe I was afraid of her reaction. Maybe I still hoped that it was just my imagination. "Just a thought," I mumbled. "He took time off too." "Really?" I didn't know. Her answer came too quickly. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Emily was sleeping next to me, her breathing calm and steady. But I couldn't understand. Why would she lie? Why pretend she didn't see Mark? The next day, I decided, enough guessing. I would find proof. If Mark was with her on the trip, I needed to know. I decided to check her cloud storage. If the photos were deleted from the phone, they might still be there. What I found made me feel betrayed. The next day, when Emily left for work, my hands were trembling like a schoolboy before an exam. I knew hacking into her account was wrong, but the feeling that my life was falling apart outweighed moral principles. I didn't guess the cloud album password right away. I tried her birthday, our anniversary dates, nothing. Finally, in desperation, I typed our wedding date. The album opened. Inside were photos. Landscapes, sunsets, the usual stuff. I flipped through them, feeling relieved. But then a sudden shift. A picture of a beach at sunset with a couple in the background, her and Mark. At first, he was far away like a random passerby. But in the next photo, they stood close, her hand resting on his shoulder. I froze. It felt like someone had tightened a grip around my throat. Why did she lie? Why did she say she was alone on the trip? I kept scrolling. More photos. They were laughing, sitting on the sand, and Emily looked at him with that same lightness I had noticed after her return. A shot against the sunset, her head resting on his shoulder. I heard my own breathing, ragged, heavy. The world in front of me seemed to shatter into pieces. I closed the album, unable to believe this was happening to me. Had I always been this blind? When Emily came home that evening, I stayed silent. She was talking about work, laughing. I watched her, feeling the turmoil inside me. I wanted to scream, to accuse her, but I held back. How could I have lived with her all these years and not noticed how she was slipping away? And most importantly, what was I supposed to do with this truth now? The next day, I realized I couldn't stay silent any longer. I prepared dinner, put on her favorite music, and when Emily came home, I asked her one direct question. I waited for her return like a condemned man awaiting a verdict. The house smelled of pasta with basil, candles were on the table. I wanted to create a sense of calm so as not to scare her off. When Emily walked in, she raised her eyebrows in surprise. "Are we celebrating something?" She smiled, but her smile seemed fake to me. "Just wanted to spend the evening together," I replied, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. We ate in silence, and every sound seemed too loud, the chair creaking, the clink of a fork against the plate. I watched her hands, so familiar, but now they felt like they belonged to a different woman. When dinner was over, I gathered my courage. "Emily, you did see Mark on your trip, didn't you?" She froze. Her face stiffened for a second, but then she forced a smirk. "What nonsense? I already told you." "I saw the photos," I interrupted, not letting her finish. "In the cloud storage. You were together on the beach." She turned pale. She put down her fork and looked me straight in the eyes. In that moment, I saw her truly not happy and calm, but scared, cornered. "Yes," she whispered. "He came. But it was a coincidence." "I didn't know." "And that's why you deleted the photos?" My voice trembled with tension. Emily gripped the edge of the table as if looking for support. I didn't take my eyes off her, trying not to break. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered. "We just ran into each other." I panicked. Didn't know how to explain. "And nothing happened?" I couldn't help the sarcastic tone. "No." She shook her head but looked away. Silence hung over us like a heavy blanket. I didn't know what to believe. She kept repeating that it was all just a coincidence, but I couldn't shake the thought that our life would never be the same. "I don't believe you, Emily," I said quietly. "And I think you don't believe yourself anymore either." She covered her face with her hands, and I realized that I could no longer be that naive person who believed her words. Now, I needed to figure this out, not with her, but with myself. The next day, I decided to talk to Mark directly. I wasn't prepared for what he would say. I didn't sleep all night. Emily lay beside me, curled up, but her breathing was heavy and uneven as if she too was afraid of the morning. I stared at the ceiling, trying to understand if I couldn't get the truth from her, I would have to find it elsewhere. In the morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Emily was still asleep, and I quietly slipped out of the house. I sat in the car for a long time, gathering my thoughts. I knew that Mark usually went jogging in the park before work, so I decided to go there. I saw him from a distance. He was running along the path, wearing headphones, relaxed and confident. I approached him when he stopped by the fountain. "Mark, can we talk?" My voice sounded harsher than I expected. He took off his headphones, looked at me with slight surprise. "Sure. Did something happen?" "I know you were with Emily on vacation," I blurted out, feeling a tight knot form inside. Mark froze for a moment, then his expression became cautious. "Did Emily tell you?" "Not exactly." I clenched my fists to keep my composure. "She said you met by chance. But I saw the photos and the message from you. You said thanks for that evening." Mark looked away. I felt a wave of anger rising in my chest. "I just want to know the truth," I muttered through clenched teeth. Mark sighed as if gathering his thoughts. "Listen, it's not what you think. I really did know she would be there. I accidentally overheard her discussing the trip at work. And yes, I decided to take my vacation at the same time." I gritted my teeth, trying not to lose control. "Why?" "I don't know." He looked at me with a kind of guilty honesty. "I thought she seemed unhappy. We just talked, walked on the beach. I didn't plan to break up your marriage. But you went anyway." I couldn't hold back my anger anymore. I thought it was harmless. But when we spent that evening together, Mark fell silent, lowering his head. I realized I'd gone too far. I stood there stunned. My heart was pounding like a hammer, and I felt a burning pain inside. "Do you love her?" I forced out, trying to keep my voice steady. Mark was silent. That was the answer I feared most. "I don't want to break up your family," he said quietly. "But I realized that I do care about her." I turned away, not wanting to let the tears escape. I understood that the truth was worse than I had expected. The question was, how to live with this knowledge. When I got home, Emily was already waiting for me in the kitchen. Her eyes were red from crying. She knew I had talked to Mark. I walked into the house, trying not to show my feelings. Emily was sitting at the table, holding a cup of cold coffee. When she looked up, I knew she understood everything. Did you talk to Mark? Her voice was hoarse, as if she had been crying all night. I nodded. She covered her face with her hands, and I felt the anger flare up again. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, barely holding back. I was scared, she whispered. I didn't know how it happened. It wasn't planned. He just showed up there. You knew he would be there, I interrupted her sharply. You can't lie anymore. He told me. She lowered her hands, looking at me with despair. Yes. I knew. But I didn't think anything would happen. I just wanted to rest, to be alone. But when he was there, I got confused. Confused? I barely held back from shouting. You deleted all the photos. You lied to me about where you were. Do you understand that you've ruined everything? Emily lowered her head. I saw her shoulders trembling. But I didn't care about her tears. All I could think about was how she had betrayed me, just like my father once betrayed my mother. It was just once, she sobbed. After that evening, we didn't talk. I realized it was a mistake. I love you. I just got lost. Got lost? I repeated coldly. You accidentally got lost in his arms? She covered her face with her hands and started crying. But I didn't care anymore. All these excuses sounded like pitiful self-justification, and I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. She rushed to me, grabbed my hand. Please, don't leave. I'm ready to do anything to make it right. Just give me a chance. I looked at her. The woman standing before me was not the Emily I knew. This woman was a stranger to me, scared, miserable, and lost. I don't know what's next, I said, pulling my hand away. But I can't stay here right now. As I closed the door behind me, I felt a lump rise in my throat. I got into the car but didn't start the engine. Everything inside me collapsed, and I realized there was no way back. A week passed. I didn't go home, staying at a friend's place instead. Emily texted me every day, short messages filled with apologies and requests to talk. But I didn't reply. I sat on the balcony, watching the warm spring rain wash the empty street. I felt hollow inside. I was trying to figure out what to do with what was left of our relationship. On the third night of loneliness, I finally answered her call. Her voice on the other end was scared. Where are you? I'm going crazy. Why are you silent? I needed time to think, I replied calmly. I don't know how to move forward. She sniffled. I understand. I ruined everything. But I love you. It was a mistake, do you understand? I got lost in my feelings. I remained silent, trying not to give in to pity. Was this love? Or just the fear of losing me? I wasn't sure anymore. I've been thinking about us, I said quietly. I've always been afraid of being the odd one out. I did everything to make you feel happy. And you chose someone else. No, it's not like that. She interrupted. I don't even understand how it happened. I was lonely and he just happened to be there. I made a mistake, but that doesn't mean I stopped loving you. I'm not sure if I still love you now, I admitted bitterly. Outside, it started raining again, the drops drumming against the window. I closed my eyes to focus on the sound. It made it easier not to break down. Let's meet and talk, Emily suggested. I'm willing to do anything to fix this. Fix it? I scoffed. You think you can just erase it from memory? Like the photos on your phone? She fell silent. I could only hear her breathing quick, unsteady. Maybe you can't, she finally replied. But I want to try. I'm not ready to lose you. I stayed quiet for a long time, trying to gather my thoughts into something coherent. Deep down, I knew that forgiveness wasn't a moment. It was a process that could take months or even years. Fine, I sighed. Let's meet tomorrow. But I'm not promising I can forget. I understand, she whispered. Thank you for giving me a chance. When I hung up, I felt a slight relief. Not because we agreed to talk, but because I had finally acknowledged my pain. I was no longer going to be the one who silently endures. Now, I was choosing myself. And if she truly wanted to win me back, she would have to prove that I wasn't just a second option in her life.